93.5 FM WKDI, 103.3 FM off campus. With you for the past 6 hours, Marcus Chapman bringing to you the final chapter, my very last broadcast here in Northern, and the time is 11:30. And right now we're going to talk about a few things. Before we do that, I want to announce that what we just heard was Confunction with Let Me Put Love on Your Mind. Before that, the OJs with Help Somebody Please, Anita Baker, Been So Long, Sharon Ridley, Stay a While With Me, and started the hour off with the Isley Brothers and Touch Me. And right now I want to put a few things on your mind. I'm, of course, am graduating next Saturday, May 13th, 1995, 2 p.m., Chick Evans Fieldhouse, baby. Yeah, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a few things that I have experienced, a few things that I have seen, and basically give you some information that can be very enlightening. And I'm going to start it off by talking about this particular program, the final chapter. Now, of course, this was a retrospective on everything that I had done here in the studio over the past 3 years. I thought about it for a very long time. Took a long time to put together various aspects of it, but there were some disturbing things that happened along the way, and I want to talk about that right now. First of all, last Monday, I took a trip over to the Northern Star, the main media outlet here on campus, and I walked into the office of the editor-in-chief. There's several editors, but the editor-in-chief, Mr. Marcus Molitas, or whatever the hell his name is, I don't know. Anyway, I walked over there to talk to him about this particular program. If you have been around and you happen to read the paper every now and then, you may, or maybe not, but more than likely, you do know that I have been in the paper several times before over the past couple of years. So it's nothing new to me, but the whole purpose of having a student newspaper is to inform people about events on campus as well as other things. But this was an event, the final chapter. I first made an appearance in the Northern Star in the spring of 1993. The first time was with Kappa Alpha Psi. The second time was the very next week on my own because of my program that I was doing that semester. And basically what this was, as I said, a retrospective of everything that I've done. So I went in there to talk about that, to see, what would happen. I've had several stories written, that's fine, but I was thinking, well, maybe they can do something special since this is the last thing and everything. I'm leaving, we'll see what happens. And I was told that what I was doing was not newsworthy. That was very interesting to me. I was told that this was not newsworthy, and that it was simply self-promotion, and it was just a radio show. Now, I'm looking at a copy of today's paper, the Northern Star, and, it has the usual things, DeKalb's crime statistics decrease and all this other type of stuff. Some good things in here. But I noticed that there is not one event in this paper today that was being held today that there is anything printed about. There are no stories in here about anything that's taking place today, at least. There is the little section entitled NIU Today that talked about a couple of meetings in Revis Hall and the Home Student Center, and I filled out a little application for that, and of course that wasn't printed up either. But as far as what I did not being newsworthy, that's very interesting to me. First of all, let me think. First of all, I know all of us have had to deal with different people here, professors who maybe gave you a hard time with a class or grade or whatever, or maybe depending on what you do here, maybe you've dealt with someone in the administration who maybe gave you a hard time, or someone in the DeKalb community or the community of Northern, whatever the case may be. But it's one thing to deal with people who have been around at this university for 5 years, 10 years, even 20, or maybe even more. People who are professors and what have you, people who are paid to be in a position of authority, or a real position. And I know I've dealt with some people like that, both good and bad. And it's one thing for them to give you problems, but I'd be damned if another student can try to stop myself or any other student from doing what they have to do. That makes no sense to me. Earlier I played a song by James Brown entitled, "I Don't Want Nobody to Give Me Nothing. Open the door, I'll get it myself." Well, in my case, I never even asked anybody to open the door for me. There are many doors that are already open around this campus that you just have to find them. A lot of avenues and different things that you can do that people don't tell you about, that you just have to happen to run into or be lucky enough to have someone inform you about them. And the newspaper is one of them. And I, over the years, used it and was able to submit material to be published. But the whole purpose was that I was doing something positive for people to find out about. And for someone, some idiot, one person, another student, who in our reality, I mean, I think you told me you were a junior, Mr. Marcos, or whatever the case may be. So that means you got here in fall of 1992, which was the same time I started here. So I was already on my way to having an impact on the campus and the people on the campus when you were still trying to figure out what bus go to DeKalb. So for you to tell me what I'm doing is not newsworthy is crazy. And to put it bluntly, well, I'll get to that in a second, because you also said something else that was interesting, that this was simply a form of self-promotion. Now, this is the final chapter. This is not the introduction. This is not the first thing that I ever did here. I did many things over the years, and so I have some backing on this. It's not like I just came out the blue and said, well, hey, could you do something for me? This is something that was led up to, events led up to this one big event, my leaving. And I don't need anybody to promote me. First of all, if I'm leaving, I don't need any self-promotion because I'm leaving. You know, people already know who I am. There's a lot of people who know me around campus, know of me. They don't really know me, but they know of me, know my name, whatever the case may be. So I hardly need anybody to promote me. And even if I did, I do a pretty damn good job of promoting myself and my own events. And these things took place because I was presenting something to people, not something for myself. Like I said earlier, if I wanted to sit around and play records, I could do that at home. That's not what I came here for. I came here to present events to people, which is why everything I always said Marcus Chapman presents, because it's something that I was presenting to the people. And it's interesting because at the same time, on today's front cover of the paper, front page, we have a story about Dr. DeKalb, the director for the Center for Black Studies. A very good article, talks about what he does and his impact on the campus. And it's interesting, in a typical, what is basically typical of things that happen in this country, especially race relations. 1 minute, the Northern Star, or it could be anything else, any other media venue. Media has always done things like this. You take one black man and you put him on the front page and you give him his just due, talk about what he did, all of his hard work, and basically promote him in a good way, show that he's doing something positive, which looks very good. But at the same time, you keep another black man out of the picture, totally shun what he has done and try to keep him away from the public eye and try to stop him from doing what he has to do. And that doesn't surprise me. And it's funny because these type of things happen all the time, but it's very interesting in this case. Not only that, there's another story in here that says 6 students to be honored, and it's talking about the Recognition Day ceremony that's taking place at the Center for Black Studies tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the Black Studies minors who are graduating. Now, the title of the article is 6 Students to be Honored, yet none of the 6 students I ever mentioned. And I hardly believe that the reporter would get the information and not say who the 6 students were. And it just so happens that one of the 6 students is a guy by the name of Marcus Chapman, along with Tamaya Burton, Marcus Lee, Angela Lockett, Paula Thomas, and Maya Wilson. Well, I was one of those 6 students, and for some reason I just kind of think there's some sort of connection between the two. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, that those names were left out on purpose. So I don't know. But anyway, Mr. Marcos and anybody else who ever tried to basically stop me or anybody else from doing what they have to do, from me to you personally, Mr. Marcos Molitas, or whatever your name is, I don't know. Only thing I had to say to you is you can kiss my black ass. And yes, I can't say that because that's not one of the 7 dirty words that you can't say in broadcasting. So that's all I had to say to you. Kiss my ass, you know. You can't stop me from doing what I got to do, you know, because I'm a hog. If you don't know what that means, you better ask somebody. You know what I'm saying? Get a haircut in the meantime. Anyway, next issue. Something else I've encountered, especially over the past year, is what I like to call the conflict between the individual and the organization. Now, being on this campus, people here would have you believe that everything revolves around organizations. If you are in a student organization, or if a student organization does something, then that's what needs to be said, and that's what it's all about. And being a member of an organization for the past 3 years, and having worked with several other organizations on various projects, I know how organizations really work. Now, one thing people seem to forget is that organizations are made up of individuals. They're made up of people, regardless of what the name is. It has to be people involved in it who make it work or don't make it work. Now, how is it that if I have a group of people with me, that whatever I do can be promoted and can be talked about? However, as an individual, it's not important. If only one person does it, it's no big deal. If it's an organization, then it's something that we need to know about. This is how college basically works. It's very group-oriented. What are you doing? What are your boys doing? What is this organization doing? What group are you affiliated with? However, I'm here to tell you the real world does not work like that. And I have been out in the real world, especially over the past year. This was kind of my transition year. I figured my college career really ended last year. This was a transition year for me because college is about preparation for the future. And the real world does not care about what organization you're in. They don't care about what your boys do, what groups you were affiliated with. If you cannot identify what you have done as an individual, even if you are part of a group or an organization, if you have not made an impact on your own as an individual, nobody cares, because people don't want a person at a job who can't do anything without anybody else. They want to know what you can do. What do you have to offer as a person? College, universities, they got you backwards. They got you thinking that it's the other way around, and that's really not what it's about. I mean, I have no gripes with any organizations or organizations in general. However, I've done as much as an individual as any organization has, and more in many cases. And if you don't believe me, take a good look at that final chapter poster and go to the student center and look at the window, the display window, because I have one of my own. And it's funny because I had to use my organization's name in order to get it. Now, I'm not saying that anybody should be able to walk around and do anything and have access to everything as an individual. However, there are many individuals on this campus and many other places who strive for success and are doing outstanding things without other people's help or without significant input from others. You know, everybody needs some help somewhere along the lines. But I did what I had to do as an individual. There were people along the way who did help, and they will be thanked in a moment. But it's not all about being in an organization. People really don't care about that when you leave college. And if you think because you're in an organization and because your organization represents something or has a certain status, that's going to get you through life, you are in for a rude awakening coming very soon when you leave the school, because people don't care, because you are competing against people who are 20, even 30, even 40 years older than you in some cases for jobs. So get your own thing together. I know a lot of people ask me why. They ask me about fraternity events, about Kappa Alpha Psi. Well, what are you all doing? Are you all doing this? Are you all participating in this? Or how come you're not in a step show? And they wonder why I always seem to be kind of nonchalant about it, or say, hey, I don't have anything to do with it right now. I'm doing my own thing. Well, that's the reason why, because you can only stay on that level for so long. College is about progression and preparation. So make sure you handle your business while you're down here, because if you don't, you're going to have it very, very rough in the real world. And the real world ain't no joke. I will tell you that right now. And even I mean, I may have a little bit of an advantage over some people, but it's still no joke. So anyway, so much for that. Next topic of discussion is what I did here over the past 3 years at the radio station. Now, it's interesting. I always had a target audience. Any radio station or radio program has a target audience, whatever the case may be it by age group or sex or race or whatever the case may be. Every radio station has a target audience. In my case, my target audience was the black community of Northern. Now, at the time when I started, I did not know how many people this consisted of, but I knew that was the main audience. Now, of course, I never had anything against anyone else listening. I know I had white listeners and some others as well, and they were welcome because of the type of music I was playing basically did the same thing. It appealed to blacks first, but it crossed over to whites and Hispanics or what have you, because good music is good music, regardless of who is doing it. So that was always the way it went. However, it's interesting because I found out that as of fall 94, last semester, there were 1,443 black students on this campus. Now, being the only black disc jockey playing music that appeals to African Americans on this campus, you would think that I would have a large sum of that audience. However, over the years, that has not been the case. I was commenting earlier, they took a picture of me tonight talking on the phone, and it's rather ironic because in the past 3 years, I probably got about a total of 20 phone calls altogether from listeners. And that's one of the reasons why things changed around here so much, why I switched days. I started Saturday, moved to Friday, changed times and everything. All of this was done because I wanted to reach the people. That was the bottom line. I even had to take a semester off because I knew that wasn't happening. I had to regroup. But all of this was done in an effort to reach the people. And that was always the bottom line. However, there were always two main factors working not only against me, but against anyone trying to do something of this sort here at this particular university. One is the cable hookup. Of course, everyone cannot pick up the station whether they want to listen or not. Everyone does not have access. So that's one problem, which I tried to combat by hooking up the deal with Classic Hi-Fi, the stereo store, earlier this semester that only about 2 people took advantage of. I think that was the last count they told me. But anyway, I tried to fight that as much as I could. But there's another factor that I could not fight, and that is the closeness to Chicago. Now, if you come from Chicago or the Chicagoland area and you are used to listening to any particular radio stations, most significantly WGCI, which is interesting because I interned with them over the summer, and that was like sleeping with the enemy almost. But if you are used to listening to them or any other Chicago station, and you come down to Northern, you know that you can pick those same stations up if you are in the dorms, for the most part. Most of them you can pick up here at Northern. Therefore, it's only natural for you to continue to listen to those stations. Now, seeing that is the case, that always caused problems for me and anybody else, but I'm just talking about me right now, because I always promoted everything I did. I mean, I did everything except go to each person's room and hook the damn cable up and turn to the station myself, and I even tried that on a couple of occasions. So it's not like people didn't know about what I did, but there was always a problem because once you get used to something, it's hard to break away from it. And I never tried to stop anyone from listening to any other stations that they were used to. However, the problem was always that people did not have a severe need to listen to me. They may have wanted to, but there was no need. However, you go to any other school in the state, you go to Illinois State, you go to Southern, you go to U of I, you go to Western and Eastern, the students at those schools listen to their radio stations faithfully, and many other stations across the country at universities. The students listen to those stations faithfully because they have no other options. Now, being that DeKalb is so close to Chicago and you can pick up those stations, the students here never had that problem. Therefore, a person like myself trying to do something at a smaller station that can only be picked up through cable on campus always had to compete against major radio stations, which wouldn't have been a problem if people could get the station without the cable, or say even if there was a cable but there was not the competition with the other stations. Either problem is significant, but with just one of them, something could have been done, and the programs could have been much more successful as far as attracting listeners and having listeners. However, those two obstacles together made almost something insurmountable. I mean, I did all I could. I still stood up and did what I had to do and spent money putting up posters and flyers and buying records and doing everything I could to get people to listen, but it never quite worked. I never had that many people, and basically that was an extremely frustrating thing to go through. I mean, over the past 3 years, I worked my ass off to try to get people to listen, and hell, there was a lot of sweat, a lot of money, and even some tears today. Just thinking about how much I actually had to go through. Not something that someone put me through, but that's just the way it was. And I still was able to stand up and do what I had to do, which is something I think I inherited, actually. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's interesting because the current program director asked me if I had planned on passing the torch, as in having someone else come in and do this type of program. First of all, that's not going to happen because what I did was done with my own material, my own records, my own collection. None of this was from the station itself, and most people don't have this type of stuff in their own collection, at least not very much, not enough to do a twice-a-week program or maybe even a once-a-week program. So that's not going to happen, and besides that, what I did could not be replaced so easily. I was not a plug-in DJ, whereas everything was set up and all I had to come in and do was talk. Everything I did, at least for this year, was pre-programmed, and I usually spent more time putting the things together than I did actually doing them. Even if it was 3 hours, sometimes I would spend 4 and 5 hours putting a program together because that's just how much of a perfectionist I am. And I really don't see anyone doing anything like this. I've never been one to just blow my own horn or just talk about what I did or say that I was so great, but these type of programs only come once in a lifetime, basically, and there is no one who could just step in and do and be Marcus Chapman Part 2. What I went through and what I did took a lot of strength, a lot of courage, and from what I've seen, I really don't see that happening. Not only that, I wouldn't want to put anyone through what I went through down here. It was hell at times. I had some fun. True enough, I did have some fun, but to do this and go through this knowing that people were not listening was not the best thing around, because that was my whole purpose. I don't know about other people. Maybe other people can sit in the studio and talk and have fun and do whatever they want, knowing people weren't out there. But myself, there was too much effort put into this to be just simply pushed aside and looked at as an afterthought and not have people listen. That was the whole purpose all the time, was to have an impact. That's why I changed so much, and that was really all I ever wanted to do, was have a positive impact, and in the meantime have some loyal listeners, and there were a few, and they will be mentioned in a moment. and that's what it was all about. But anyway, that's all on the downside. I think my experience here has made me a much stronger person, definitely. I was always strong, but going through something like this, I think I'm ready for anything, to be honest with you. I really don't see anybody stopping me from doing anything. But, things happen for a reason. If I had gone somewhere else, which I never had really thought about doing, the results may have been better, but I can say I did have a full college experience here in Northern, and I don't regret coming here. There's no need to. I'm not about to start all over again. I'll tell you that right now. But, hey, I did what I had to do. And like I said, there are some people who I would like to take a few moments out to thank, who either had a significant impact on what I did or just helping me out in some kind of way. Some of them are not here anymore, but and some of them never have been here. But I still want to take some time out to thank them. As far as people who aren't here anymore, I'd like to thank Andy Plunker, the guy who worked at the Northern Star. He never did anything on me at the Northern Star, but he was the program director here at the time when I applied to work here initially in 1992, myself and Rob Fonville. So I want to thank him for allowing us to do what we wanted to do and present the program that we did. So thanks a lot to Andy. I want to thank Rob Fonville, my boy, for joining me in the fall of 1992 doing the mixes for the Party Before the Party. It was a very innovative program. Unfortunately, it just was bad timing, which happens a lot of times. But thanks to my boy Rob, Artila Mims, a former editor of the Lifeline newspaper, who did a story on myself and Rob in the fall of 1992. I want to thank her. I want to thank another one of my boys from back then, Darren Flowers, who used to tune in and tape some of the programs for me. My boy Danny Baker, who was also known as Boo, used to live in Neptune, used to cut hair, little skinny dude. He was always up on the tunes and was always very positive about what we were doing, and I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank House Mike, because he was the first person I heard on here. Unfortunately, he kind of got lost in the system of the way things are set up down here in Northern with the comms department. Kind of got pushed into a different area. He's working for V103 right now at promotions, but the man should have been on the air somewhere. I actually think he was better than me, but I was maybe a little bit more determined and didn't want to listen to what other people had to say in the comms department as far as what I should or should not be doing. But thanks to Mike, and I say what's up to Devin too. They both were down here. I'd like to thank Mark Parchman, one of the teachers in the comms department, the best one as far as I'm concerned that I ever had, for trying to bring some reality into the classroom instead of simply a textbook and notes and what have you. He's a good teacher. I want to thank you for all your knowledge and giving me a chance to do what I had to do. Another teacher I'd like to thank is Lee Cloud, Dr. Lee Cloud of the music department. Teaches Music 220, the black music section that's usually offered in the fall, for all of your words of wisdom and your support. I'd like to thank Miss Stephanie Knox, who I talked with last semester. Was it earlier this semester I talked with her? And I'd like to thank her. Over at the Center for Black Studies, I'd like to thank Van Amos. I did an interview with him back in February about African Heritage Month. I'd like to thank him for all your help, Dr. ZK and Derek Smith as well. And everyone at the Center for Black Studies, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the men of Kappa Alpha Psi, my boys. Yo, what's up? Unfortunately, didn't too many of y'all listen to me. That's all right, though. I got something for you. That's all right, though. You know how things go. It was basically the cable thing once again. But say what's up to all my boys. Special shout out to boys Howard and Sean for graduating with me. We gonna do this, you know what I'm saying? I want to say thank you to the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha for recognizing me earlier this semester for the outstanding men achieving in the 90s. So thank you for that very much. That meant a lot to me. In particular, I want to thank Asian Mitchell and Tamika Corpus, because I worked with them when they were members of Black Interhall Council for the 70s party back in the fall of 93. The party didn't attract too many people, but I got paid. I said I got paid a nice little amount of money, Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Danielle Henderson, member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority and a very good friend of mine. I want to thank you just for being a good friend, just for having somebody to talk to every now and then, and thank you. Your friendship is definitely appreciated. I'd like to thank Bert Simpson, who is the assistant to the provost, for all the time you spent meeting with me, talking about changing things around here as far as the radio broadcasting situation is concerned. I think things will change for the better. It won't happen immediately, but it will happen eventually. And I'd like to thank you for all the time you spent with me, as well as Charlotte Chambers and Edanya Blair for pointing me in Bert Simpson's direction. I'd like to thank Edanya for giving me the number to Southern and Illinois State so I could contact them about how their programs go. So thanks again for all your help with that. I'd like to thank Anali from Apple Tree Records. I worked at Apple Tree Records this semester. They just closed down, and I'd like to thank you for hiring me, giving a brother a chance to make some money, and also giving me a chance to create the rhythm and blues and rap sections. If any of you all, whoever went in Apple Tree, and I'm sure that most of you did, you knew that all the music was basically mixed in, which was not a good thing for black artists or black buyers to have to go through the entire store to find out that what you were looking for wasn't there any damn way. So thanks a lot for allowing me to do that. I'd like to thank the people over at Classic Hi-Fi for all their help, for all the stereo equipment and everything. It wasn't free or nothing, but I have purchased a lot of things from you all, and thank you for the deal from earlier this semester. It's greatly appreciated. I'd like to thank the men of Alpha Phi Alpha, who used to have the Golden Image Awards. Too bad they didn't have it this year. I was nominated 2 years in a row for Most Talented Student, and it's too bad they didn't have it this year, because I think I might have had a chance to win. It's just too bad. I think people might have voted for me. I'd also like to thank Jack, the Student Center man, for just being cool. Thanks a lot, Jack. Also for Chris Mason, I'd like to thank you for recording some of my programs back in the fall of '93. Thank you for all your help. I'd like to thank some people at WDEK. I did an internship there this semester. I'll be done this Friday, as a matter of fact. I'd like to thank Keith Banzimer and Dave Bovito in particular, as well as Mike Baldwin, as well as the general manager, too. I'd like to thank you for all your time and expertise and all your advice and everything else as far as the industry is concerned, radio broadcasting. I'd like to thank you for that. From WGCI in the summer, I'd like to thank Sean Ross, the former AM program director of Dusty Radio 1390, for all the time and the experience. I especially want to thank Lon Dyson, who's the brother of the WGCI's general manager, Marv Dyson. He's a DJ there. And basically, he's just like me. This is a fun person. That's my boy. He's down, and thanks for all the little hookups, you know what I mean? And I also like to thank Armando, the Puerto Rican Casanova, as he calls himself, for your time for showing me how to work the control board there, which is very different from the one here, of course. And that's definitely valuable. I'd like to thank Mike Hudson, Quiet Storm, just for being cool, and Rick Party for being one of the downest brothers I've met. Thanks a lot for your advice. I have to give a little special recognition to the record stores in Chicago who provided me with the music to play here. Great Scott Records, formerly known as the Record Box, where I bought my very first record at, and I still go there and talk with them every now and then. Thanks for all your knowledge. Coops, which was formerly known as Mr. T's, on 87th, right off Stony. Great Scott is on 95th, right off Jeffrey. Well, on Jeffrey, right off of 95th, rather. And I'd like to thank you all as well. Thank Jimmy's on 87th and Ashland, Dr. Wax in Hyde Park, the best supply of records for me at this point in time. The B-side, I'd like to thank the manager, Leonard, for all your kind help and just for being a very nice person. Secondhand Tunes, even though they kind of bad people every now and then, I'd like to thank you all in Hyde Park and Evanston. Drove all the way out there to get James Brown Soul Classics, as well as the one up north, even though every now and then y'all bad people. Y'all got to watch that, but you all are cool. Video Beat up north, another good record store, and Gramophone, a little bit. I bought a few things from there. I'd like to thank them. Those are all the places who provided me with the music, even though they didn't give it to me for free, but that's where I get all this stuff from. Back to campus, I'd like to thank the NAACP for the award that you all gave me this semester, in particular Keith Ellis and Richard Baker. I'd really like to thank you. Brother Baker came up to me after the NAACP ceremony and told me, he said, I know your request lines aren't ringing off the hook, but we appreciate you. And those words really meant a lot to me, especially at that time, because there were times even this semester where I felt like giving up, even though that wasn't going to happen. But very frustrating, and those were very, very kind words, and I thank you for all the inspiration that you've given me through your speeches and just being a very smart and aware brother, man, going in the right direction. I'd like to thank Miss Michelle Lipscomb, the current Miss Black NIU. I did an interview with her back in February. I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to do that. Over in the judicial office, Mr. Terry Jones has been invaluable, especially last semester during the R&B spotlights, and he supplied me with some records to use. And I'd like to thank you for all your time and wisdom and everything. And another down brother, Mr. Larry Bowles, have to thank him, Hook, for all your time and concern about me and everything. And I'm glad I can make you proud of us, you know what I'm saying? Yo, yo. Also, to Present Perfect, I'd like to thank them for all their affiliations that I've done with them. Here at the station, I have to thank Art Graver for going to give me something to drink today, because this wire punch came in handy. 6 hours of talking. Thanks a lot for that. I also like to thank Brian and Rob, who are up next with the train wreck. I'm sorry I kept forgetting to announce you all after me, but thanks a lot for being here on time all the time too. Yeah, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, a few times in the past I had to wait for the next person like a half hour. But thanks a lot, and everyone else here for everything that you did. Thanks a lot to Tom, the program director. Thanks a lot, everyone else. I'd like to thank the people over at Kinko's and in the Student Center. I'd like to thank Ben in particular, who works in the print shop in the Student Center. Thank you for helping me out with my flyers for last semester and the ones at the beginning of this semester. And Patty over at Kinko's and everyone else who works over at Kinko's. Steve for providing the graphics, the lettering on the majority of my flyers. I'd like to thank you for that. And I have to thank my family for all your support, especially my mother, Miss Daisy Chapman. I think myself and both my sisters, Pamela and Zenobia, I think we inherited something from you that basically keeps us going all the time, no matter what we go through. This strength that we can just make it through anything, regardless of what it is. I love you all, and I thank you for everything that you did for me, have done, and will continue to do. And I'll see you on May 13th. And we'll be sure to make you proud then. Sorry I didn't get to send out the announcements. But, I'm still graduating regardless. People know, don't worry about it. So thank you. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank some of my hardcore listeners. Now, the one unfortunate thing about this is that the list is not longer. There's actually only a couple of people for me to mention. But I would like to thank Rosita over in Neptune for always listening. Every time you could, you listen, you call me up, you talk to me. And I'm glad that I was able to provide you with information and music and everything. I thank you for listening all the time, even back in fall '92. Matter of fact, I kind of stole this tape from your old roommate of me on the air for the very first time, but I ain't going to talk about that. And I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd like to thank Lisa, who kept calling me, asking me to play As We Lay. Thank you for listening. And Tiffany Mays, I'd like to thank you for listening and participating in the contest that I did earlier this semester. Thank you for everything, for being there and listening. To anyone else who listened on a consistent basis but did not call, it's too bad you didn't call. It really would have made me feel nice. But thank you anyway. And I'd also like to thank Miss Tori Hughes over at Grand North for not only for listening to me, but for being there for me. Everything that you've done for me has been invaluable. Thank you. Thank you isn't a strong enough word to say, and I really appreciate you and all that you've done for me, for being there for me, talking to me, and basically being there for me all the time. That's really all I can say. It's funny, brother be down here 4.5 years, don't find nobody. get ready to leave, find somebody. It is. That's just life is funny like that. But I thank you very much, and I love you. Thank you very much for everything. And I guess the last thing for me to say, even though I'm over the time limit, but don't nobody care. We're not gonna say nothing about that. The last thing I had to say is that if there's anything that I did while I was here during my time, be it here over the air or out in public or anything that I ever did, flyers, whatever the case may be, anything that I did that had a positive impact on anyone here, that inspired anyone here to go out and stand up and be an individual and do what you had to do, even a group, if I inspired people to do what they had to do and stand up and be a positive role model, I guess. Even though I don't believe in role models, I believe in examples. I think I've been a good example. I don't believe in role models. I don't believe in following anyone. I believe in listening to people and looking at people and taking in everything and making the best of it and figuring out what works for you. But if I have done anything to inspire anyone that gave a positive example, it was all worthwhile. And I thank everyone who did listen tonight or whatever night, whether you're here now or not. I thank you all for your support that you gave or tried to give. Some people wanted to listen. I have to say what's up to Kim Jones. She wanted to listen. I went by her house to try to hook it up, and we just couldn't get it to work. But thanks a lot, and it was all worthwhile, if that's the case. I know I went through a lot of hard things, a lot of bad things, but all in all, I guess, hey, I did what I had to do, and if I did anything to make your life better, you, the listener, then it was all worthwhile. And if I had to do it again, I can't say I'd do it again, but the experience was something, and this is it for me. So I'll be graduating this Saturday. I don't know if it's my time to go. There's no need to say I wish it would hurry up, because it's not going to get any faster. There's no need to say I wish it would, last longer, because it's not. The time has come. I've done what I've had to do. It's time for me to move on and go out into the world and do what I was put here to do. And that's all I have to say. I'd like to thank also my father, Mr. Marcus Chapman. I wish you were here to see and hear everything I've done, but I know you're around here somewhere. And I thank you for bringing me into the world, you and my mother. Thanks a lot. So that's it. It's time for me to go. I really didn't have a song to leave you all with. I wanted to just sign off and say that's it. But I guess, to give Brian and Rob a chance to get prepared and everything, I guess I can leave you all with something from man Al Green. Song that's, you may think it's inappropriate, but actually if you really listen to the words and understand what he's talking about, it's very appropriate, even though it kind of deals with relationships or whatever, people breaking up and someone leaving. But in this case, I'm leaving, and even though, like I said, there were a lot of negative things that happened, there were some positive things as well. And the song is entitled For the Good Times, and I guess that's all I can say. For the good times. I thank you all for them. I'm glad I could provide you with some of your own. And this is the last song I have to play. And